crash into an Austin hospital injured 5 people, including a 1-year-old. This week on Inside the Investigations, my colleague Matt Grant explains how hundreds of similar crashes are happening all across the country and the possible protection many hospitals don't have.
Hi there, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Will Dupree, coming to you from the KXAN live studio, joined as always for another episode of Inside the Investigations by my co-host, Kelly Wiley. Kelly, nice to see you as well. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we are going to have a conversation today diving into one of the stories that our investigative team reported out recently. And so let's bring into the conversation now investigative reporter Matt Grant. Matt, thank you so much for joining us as well. Nice to see you too.
Nice to see you too. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Matt. So months ago, a car slammed into an Austin emergency room. And since then, you and several other investigators on our team have been looking into what safety measures exist to keep this from happening. Tell us about what you found.
Well, let's first go back to the day of the accident. So February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, the Bernard families, Nadia, Levi, and their 2 toddlers, they were in the lobby at St. David's North. They were looking at an aquarium. Nadia was there for test results. They were waiting for them to come back. She just had a CT scan. They're looking at this fish tank. And that's when this white Acura comes through the ER door, barrels through, and runs the family over. This was about 5:30 in the afternoon, or in the early evening. And the family was seriously hurt. And that's how this all started. And after that, we wanted to look into, how could this have happened, and is this common or not?
We saw so many videos of the crash aftermath, of the broken glass and everything that was inside that facility. It looked downright terrifying, Matt.
Yeah, the Facebook video that we've seen from inside the lobby at the moment were just, it's unbelievable. It's a swirl of just white smoke. You could barely see the cars, lights. You hear the alarms going off. There's the strobes from the alarms. The horn is going off. Tires are squealing. There's people are screaming. It's just a wild, horrific scene, and the Bernard family, they were right in the middle of it. The driver of the Acura unfortunately died. We don't know how the accident occurred. Still, police are still investigating. 5 people we do know were injured, and that includes all 4 members of the Bernard family. But it was the next day, on Valentine's Day, that the chief medical officer for St. David's North, he held a news conference and said something that made us want to take a deeper look.
We really felt, considering the tragic nature of what happened, there were so many blessings that did occur. Something that it might be seen in some of the videos was the water. The vehicle, it had direct impact to a very large aquarium that really, I believe, saved lives as it absorbed the impact. And so, thank you. I thank God for intervening there and giving us that protection.
The type of protection St. David's did not have, though, is something that it did have at its other hospitals, and hospitals across Central Texas also have, and that's something called a safety bollard.
So Matt, a safety bollard, explain to us what that is.
Yeah, so you've probably seen them and maybe not given them second thought. Oftentimes they're at grocery stores, gas stations, hospitals. They're these vertical posts. Sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they look like they're concrete. A lot of times you'll see them in front of storefronts, like at 7-Eleven or something. And what they are is they're designed to protect buildings and pedestrians from a vehicle impact, whether that's accidental or in some cases intentional. And we got a look to see how they're tested. We went out to Texas A&M Transportation Institute near College Station. They crash test these bollards, and we got to see the difference between how some work and why they work. And we found that the ones that would have really made a difference in this case, according to the experts that we spoke to, are the ones that are made with this high strength steel core. And they are crash rated to withstand an impact. The ones that we saw tested were the equivalent of a Dodge Ram pickup truck going 20 miles an hour.
It can withstand some pretty powerful things, but in your reporting, you looked at how common these types of crashes are at facilities across the country. Just how common are those?
Yeah, so we spoke with the Storefront Safety Council, which are these experts in vehicle into building crashes. They've been tracking and building a database of incidents for more than a decade. They use media, police reports, lawsuits to just compile all of these incidents. So they shared their data with us. We went through it and identified in the last decade at least 244 cases of vehicles crashing into medical facilities around the country. On top of that, our team used data from TxDOT to analyze statewide crashes, and we found more than 80. So, I mean, when you combine the two data sets together, we're talking that we know of more than 300 crashes into medical facilities across the country. In fact, just weeks before the incident at St. David's, there were two additional crashes about 100 miles east of Austin in College Station and Navasota. And we have photos from one of those crashes where the car just went right through the door into the lobby waiting area. And we partnered with NBC stations from around the country and identified at least 6 other cases in other states, 2 of them that authorities said at the time were intentional.
You mentioned there that St. David's, other hospital locations here in our area have these safety bollards. Why did this particular hospital not have those?
It's a good question. It's one we've been asking. We don't have an answer to it. What we do know is the day after the crash, the CMO for St. David's North said they did not have barriers, quote, that is open to make ease of access for patients to come in with wheelchairs and other assist devices. Yet we know per ADA requirements that bollards are supposed to be spaced apart far enough to allow wheelchairs and gurneys, but not allow a vehicle to pass through. And St. David's installed 7 bollards at that same hospital sometime after the crash. And St. David's also had these bollards at its other hospitals that day too. In fact, we've seen photos that St. David's North had those bollards on site at the time, but protecting outside equipment, not the entrance to the ER, which it later did after the crash. So we're still asking those questions. St. David's would just say that they can't talk about any of its bollards because of security reasons.
Matt, I want to go back to the science behind the safety bollards. You mentioned already these tests that you got to see where they're testing for the equivalent of a Dodge Ram coming through the building. Talk more about how they work, how effective they are, but also how much they cost for hospitals.
Yeah, and I did just want to point out, so just to kind of bounce off my last point, like we did go to 34 hospitals all across Central Texas to see how common these bollards are. And what we found was that 18 hospitals had bollards, 9 had partial coverage, and 7 had nothing at all. And so they are a common thing, and we're asking why more and more hospitals, aren't using them if they aren't. In terms of how they work, so Texas A&M, they test these bollards, and we got to see firsthand how that's done. And they have this machine they call it a bogey. And it's kind of hard to describe, but we've got video of it. It's basically like a big unmanned vehicle that's pulled on these cords, and it's the equivalent of a Dodge Ram pickup truck, a 5,000-pound vehicle traveling 20 miles an hour, crashing into these bollards. And we watched 2 of them. One that we watched was a simple concrete post. And it's unrated. It's meant for traffic control. It's not really meant for stopping a vehicle. But the company, McHugh Corporation out of Massachusetts, they've been testing at Texas A&M for years. They invited us to come watch. That was their product. They wanted us to see the difference between different types of bollards. And the bogey sliced that concrete bollard like right in half. It just ran it right over. The company says concrete snaps easier. The other one that we saw was the high strength steel bollard, and that one stopped the bogey. The bogey actually like went up. The tires went up over on top of it. And so we have video of a similar crash test from 2021 and the one that we saw on our website, so you can see what we witnessed. But the company says that hospitals really need to do their due diligence when they purchase these bollards, and really anyone, any business that has them. They're saying you should look for bollards that are crash test rated to a certain standard, and that will ensure that it's uniform, that will ensure that it's effective, because as we watched, not all of them are the same, and the crash test rated ones really are the ones that Texas A&M and that the experts we spoke with say that's how you know that this is going to be effective. They're a little more costly, but they work.
And I mean, that's at the end of the day what you want to happen, because, you know, lawsuits can come up for hospitals, which can be just as costly. Your story is getting so much traction from lawmakers, from local folks. Tell us about who you've heard from and what they've said.
Yeah, and by the way, we mentioned costly. The McHugh Corporation says about $30,000 to install 20 crash-rated bollards in front of an ER entrance, but that might just be one entrance, and hospitals might have multiple entrances and multiple hospitals, so you can see where costs might add up. But yeah, we are hearing back. We reached out to more than 50 state lawmakers. We've already heard from more than a half dozen that said that they want to look into this. And we've heard from 2 Austin City Council members, Councilmember Vanessa Fuentes and Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly, and both watched our story. We were with them when they watched it. They had an emotional reaction, and both say that they want to look into changing ordinances to require hospitals in the Austin area to have bollards. Councilmember Fuentes said that she'd like to even see bollards and expand it to other facilities like nursing care facilities and that sort of thing. So we'll definitely be watching and paying attention to that.
Matt, thank you so much for your investigative reporting and for breaking down how you guys not just figured out what happened at this hospital, but at so many other facilities where I know people and our viewers go to and expect to feel safe and get the care that they need. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you can check out Matt's reporting on our website at KXAN.com. But that will do it for another edition of Inside the Investigations. Kelly, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, that's Kelly Wiley. I'm Will Dupree. We will see you back here at another time. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. Take care.